Do you remember the first story that was so spellbinding that it drove you to break the rules and stay up all night? To keep reading, keep listening, keep playing? So good you forgot your life and lived there?
So good that the moment it ended, you asked yourself, what next?
Welcome to the Flore. Our goal is to take you back, take you deeper, to explore and understand more, and relive that childlike wonder.
Join us as we dive deep into humanity's greatest stories, no matter how they are told, through books, movies, television, even games.
One of us does an in-depth research on our topic. One of us is familiar with the topic.
And one of us knows nothing. So the right questions will always be asked and will be addressed for anyone coming into the topic, regardless of how much you know.
Enjoy another world, another adventure, another spellbinding story. Join us on the Flore. Welcome to the Flore. We are finishing up our Witcher edition. We're going to try and get through
Season 2.
Season 2, yes. This is the end of Season 2. We're going to try and get through the last 4 episodes. As we've covered a lot of the lore points already, now we're just kind of following the characters through. But there's still a few things to bring up. So we're going to start here in episode 5. Here is your quick summary of the events before we dive into the lore points. Lydia frees a mage called Rience. So she visits him in a debtor's prison. Now, in the Netflix series, they don't clarify where this is. However, in the books, this takes place in Sintra. So yes, he frees a maid called Rience. He uses fire magic and is hired to find Cirilla. Geralt convinces Istred to help him study the monoliths, and Yennefer tries to find Jaskier. Rience tracks down Jaskier and tortures him for info about Geralt and Cirilla, but is interrupted by Yennefer, and then the two escape. Geralt and Istrid investigate the chasm left by the monolith. So they teleport to Sintra, and then they go down into the huge chasm left when Cirilla broke.
Who's Istrid again?
Istrid. So this is the mage that Yennefer falls in love with way back when she's studying magic.
Oh, that boy. And then Geralt and him got together, and it's like a bromance immediately.
So he went down to Nilfgaard to study monoliths, and this was, years and years before Nilfgaard marched forward on Sintra. And then Cirilla broke this monolith, and Geralt, in the previous episode, they found the special stone in the creature they killed. And so they're like, it's got to have something to do with these monoliths. And Triss then knew that Istred was kind of the world-leading expert on monoliths. So she sent Geralt to talk to him. So that's how he is kind of brought back into the story, is he's the expert on these.
Understood.
So they go to the chasm where, when Cirilla breaks that in the first episode of the whole series, it creates this huge chasm. So they go down in there to try and learn more.
Yeah, because she unleashed a whole brand new Gen Z nanovirus on the world of monsters, right?
Yeah. So initially, Geralt believes that the monoliths are just they come out of a lot of stone underneath it, and they're caverns, but they're sealed away from the rest of the world. And Geralt thinks that the monsters trapped in these caverns are isolated from the rest of the world, so they have mutated differently. And then when they go down into the chasm, Istred presents the theory that they're not mutating differently because they're isolated here. They're actually teleporting in through other worlds, they're connected and coming through. So that's his theory.
And this is the mutated Leshy that they fight.
Yeah, so the Leshy would have been something that came out of here. It was different. Yeah.
Which, when I watched that episode, I wouldn't have guessed that it split in two. I would have guessed that was a completely different beast.
Well, and it completely surprises Geralt as well when it splits in two. It's they're supposed to do that. So, and that's part of his, and he shows the head to somebody else, and they're like, what is it? He's like, I don't know. It's just this is...
Thought you could help me.
It's not something we. Yeah,
I came to you.
Yeah, he's like, I thought he would have.
This isn't a show and tell. This is a show. Hey, do you have an idea?
Helpful that we started this conversation with "What's that?" because I brought it to you.
You. Yeah.
That was my question.
So then, back in Kaer Morhen, Triss enters Cirilla's mind to try and find her origins, and there she sees Laura Durin and the prophecy that Cirilla will destroy the world. Now, over the next few episodes, we're going to kind of learn more because Triss's reaction doesn't make sense in the moment. And then Cirilla demands that she be made a true Witcher because they don't feel anything. And but Geralt gets back in time and stops the process from happening. And then Yennefer agrees to make her deal with Baba Yaga so she can get her magic back. And so then she is sent to kidnap Cirilla. And then...
Wait, back up. So Yennefer, Geralt's love interest, is sent to kidnap Geralt's child interest?
Yes.
Okay, just clarifying.
His child interest. It's funny. But so... Back to the chasm briefly, there is a creature that Geralt and Estrad see, and it flies off, and then at the end of this episode, Cirilla and Geralt go hunting that creature. So that's kind of our summary right there. So let's move into the lore points. So Lydia, this woman who shows up to free Reince, this is Lydia van Bredrenvoet. Originally, she was an assistant to Vilgefortz. So this is he's got the long, dark hair mage. He is currently trying to become the leader of the Brotherhood along with Trisea, right? This is Vilgefort. So originally this was his assistant, and she was assigned to study a strange artifact that was cursed. And during the magical investigation, it detonated, killing 3 of the mages that were there, and it leaves her with scars all over her face. And she actually doesn't speak. She communicates telepathically, and it's an illusion that her mouth is moving.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so like the whole bottom of her face is an illusion. Like it's not really there. So, and we've seen this before in previous episodes, like, was it Strigobor showed that he doesn't actually have any hands because they got blown off by Falca. So, yes, this is the kind of illusion we've seen before. All right, to go even deeper into Lydia would go to spoilers, so we're going to move to Reince. So Reince, this is the fire mage, right? He's the one who tortures Jaskier. He's always snapping his fingers and making the little flame appear. This is Reince. So he attended the school of Banard, and he was expelled after 2 years for petty theft. After that, he was approached by Cadwin's secret service and trained as an assassin. And then it was Queen Calanthe who imprisoned him in the debtor's prison. So we don't know exactly who he owed the debt to, but that's why he was thrown in there. So it's less of a holding prison and more of like that's where he sleeps and eats, and then he has to go out and work because that's how debtor's prison works. You're all day you work, like, chopping wood or quarrying stone to pay off your debts. Just hard labor.
Chain gang style.
Same thing.
So, and in reference to debtor's prison, this is actually a term that was created by political critics of the system. Originally, I guess their official name was just a workhouse, even though people were chained up and kept in cells at night.
Oh, so it's just a standard workhouse. Nothing bad going on there.
Well, these were pretty common during the Middle Ages, right? Okay, so I think there's I did want to bring this up. So in the Netflix series of The Witcher, we have the Finwin, the plant that grows where Cirilla bleeds, and it's needed to make Witchers, right? We've talked about this as kind of a variant. And I think one of the problems with them introducing this idea is that if that were true, anytime she scraped her knee as a kid, got a bloody nose, we would have seen these flowers popping up. And we don't. Anytime Calanthe bled on a battlefield, you would have seen these flowers popping up. And we don't. Right? Anytime her mother went through the same thing, growing up as a baby, You know, they scrape their knee, their hands, they get bloody noses.
Yeah, but maybe
These
her
flowers
blood
would have
has
been
only been woken up recently.
working up.
You mean they're like
Come on,
I
cicadas?
just
it's
wanna point
magic.
out
They
that
can
this
just say some random stuff about it, and then that's how it works in this universe.
That's how it works.
You know, they have the top tier writers at The Witcher. You know, ask Henry Cavill.
Righty. Okay, so another lore point is what's called Sad Albert. Cirilla, when she's going to be transformed into a Witcher, is on kind of a bed thing, and she's like, they chain her up and everything. This is referred to as Sad Albert, since Albert is the first boy to die on this little bed table thing. We're going through the Witcher experimentation.
Oh, okay.
In the games, you will use Sad Albert a few times for various magical experiments on people who want to be experimented on, right? There's a guy who wants a curse removed, and it's a pretty intense process, so you strap him down to Sad Albert. So
Okay.
Sad Albert's just a gurney, basically.
it's a blend of a table and a bed together.
Mhm.
So almost like a massage table, but just flat and hard instead of padded.
And it's got the straps on it, so you can't get off. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, and it's
go
got
away.
straps on it so you can't get off. Yeah. Well, it's more because like when you're shaking and spasming, you don't knock yourself off onto the floor and hurt yourself.
Yeah,
more.
if you're gonna die, you want to be dying chained up. I get it.
Or if you try
Like
to
Sad Albert.
say you want to bail midway through this uncursing, and you're like, no, the curse is worth it. This is worse. Then they're like, nah, we're gonna finish the process.
No, we're gonna finish. You're already chained up. It's fine. So the creature that Geralt and Istred see in the chasm, they refer to as a Chernobog. This was a creature entirely created by the Netflix series. However, the term Chernobog comes from the Slavic meaning black god, and there has an opposite called a Belobog called a white god. And it's kind of these opposing sides of good and evil. And how this really fits into the spirit of The Witcher is we do see that the original author, Andrzej Sapkowski, he takes a lot of these Slavic myths and Slavic concepts and then shifts them and changes them as he puts them into his world. And so it's definitely something we see with the Chernobog.
And like Baba Yaga is another one. Yeah. All right.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and do episode 6. Okay, so we have been mentioning at the end of our episodes recently about the treasure room, how, as Aaron likes to describe it, in the Flore we go deep into things, but in the treasure room we kind of go wide. And we wanted to give people who have never been in the treasure room a little bit of a sample. So going forward, we'll probably be putting in little bits and pieces here. So here is a small clip from the treasure room. We hope you enjoy it and are interested in learning more in there.
Games, there can be changed lore, and in the TV show people don't seem to like it as much, and I think that's because you are making the choices, you're changing it, and so you feel like
All right. So we've been talking about episode 5, and we've had a few new characters introduced. Lydia, is she the one with the illusion mouth and all the burns? Yeah. And
Yeah,
we have
that's
Yennefer
Lydia.
went and saved Yasser from Yaskir from torture fire mage.
Rant.
We learned about the Chernobog for pulling
Good writing
curses out
on
of
that
people.
one.
Or Sad Albert. I almost said Fat Albert.
That would be sad too.
Yeah. So we're just kind of cruising through this. And Yennefer's gonna get her magic back, or did she already get it back from Baba Yaga?
So she was able to use it briefly, but she doesn't have it back permanently until she delivers Cirilla.
She gave her just a little taste.
Yeah.
Just be like,
Well,
"Do you
she
like
needed it
She
in the
won't come
moment
back for
to
more?"
escape. So, and it was
okay,
in that
okay.
moment of desperation that she makes the deal.
You know how deals are made.
Oh, okay, I see.
Oh, you need it right now? Right now?
Yeah. Hags.
You wait till they're desperate, then they'll agree to anything. You know.
Just give me your soul, dude. That's it.
Mm-hmm. That's how hags work. They're like, I'm gonna find out when you want it, and then offer to you then. So, moving on to episode 6.
Moving on to episode 6. All right. So, begins with Geralt killing the Chernabog, and then he takes Cirilla to the Temple of Melitele.
When you say he kills the Chernabog, the Chernabog's not the table?
No, Assad Albert's the table. Chernabog's the creature they found in the chasm.
Okay, my bad. I thought that was 2 names for the same thing.
No. Sad Albert is the original dyer on the gurney. Chernabog is just a really cool animal that is a fusion.
Well, and instead of being like, we're going to take you for testing, it's like, you got to go visit Sad Albert. Time to visit Sad Albert, kids.
Yeah, you might die. If you were hanging out with Happy Albert, you shouldn't worry. If you're hanging out with Sad Albert, you might not come back.
So, all right, yeah. So it begins with him killing the Chernabog, and then he takes Cirilla to the Temple of Melitele to study magic. And he does mention this is where he also learned to use his little sign magics.
Oh, his little signs. His signs are cool, too.
Francesca, that's the elf sorceress, encourages Fringilla, the Nilfgaard sorceress, to claim powers. So we have the return of Kair to Sintra, and Kair is a higher ranking officer in the Nilfgaardian army than Fringilla, and so he's kind of taking over, and Fringilla doesn't like it, and Francesca doesn't like it, and so she's like encouraging Fringilla to push back against this, because even though he is higher ranking in the Nilfgaardian army, all the elves see Fringilla as the leader, not Kair, and they don't like what's going on. So Istred goes to a group of people called Codringer and Finn for information. This is a detective agency. And then Yennefer goes to the Temple of Melitele seeking Cirilla and find Geralt, and then realize the girl she is supposed to kidnap is Geralt's child surprise. So she has that awful moment.
Yeah, we talked about that.
So, yeah. So, and then
It's a great one.
Reince attacks Kaer Morhen and gets some of Cirilla's blood that he uses to track her to the Temple of Melita, and Geralt fights them off, and Yennefer teaches Cirilla magic to escape, but is also leading her to Baba Yaga. All right, so that's kind of the summary of events. And then the first one we have is the religion of Melita. Now, we have covered this in a previous show, so I'm just going to mention very briefly, this is the god of the harvest and fertility, and one of the most common gods in all human cultures, right? Almost any human culture with multiple deities, you've got a god of harvest and fertility, right? Whether it's the Vikings with Freya, just they're always around.
Or you just be like the Greeks and you just marry her off to the Lord of Death.
Lord of Death.
Agriculture is pretty important to humans.
Yeah. So what is it? I remember one guy, he was actually researching a bunch of old gods and different stuff, and he said, a very common god used to be god of the hearth.
Hestia.
Think about that. That's your fire pit.
That's the home.
Where you cook and have your it's there for warmth and it's there for cooking. He says, for most of us, that is no longer an essential part of our day. He says, but for most of human culture, that place was essential to life.
But it's also the place where they kept the hearth warm while the guys were off at war. So Hestia, the goddess of the hearth, she was the homekeeper. She kept it worth coming home to.
little bit of a tangent, but I did think that was just an interesting perspective how our society has changed so much that that's no longer this huge thing.
It's still a huge thing. It's still a huge thing. That's why people are depressed now. Because they don't go back to that communal feeling. Because they're forgetting about Hestia. She's one of the most important goddesses in your entire life. And you're forgetting about like communing with each other and being grateful for their hearth and home. Yeah, so not something unimportant. Thank you for being wrong.
Thank you for being here. So, all right. So, another character we'll meet is Nenica. This is the head of the Temple of Melitele in Elendar. That is where the temple is. So, this is the Kingdom of Temeria, kind of the region of Elendar. Like, that's the city it's near. Oh, yeah. So, in the books, like when that princess takes that huge bite out of his shoulder, right? This is where Geralt comes to get healed. And that's kind of like his pattern. If he gets injured really badly...
Oh, the princess takes a bite out of his shoulder. So, see, if you're not specific, that sounds like another Saturday night for
Saturday night, yeah. So whenever he gets injured really seriously, he comes here to heal up. The temple and Nenica are famous for their healing. So she makes a lot of potions and elixirs and salves, and a lot of the stuff she uses to do that only grows in some crystal caves that are nearby, which is why so many...
She's an alchemist.
Yeah, which is why so many people come to the Temple of Melitele for healing. So, Codringer and Finn. In the books, these are two guys. In the Netflix series, they have changed Finn to the redheaded woman. But in both versions, Finn is crippled and in a mechanical chair that kind of gets wheeled about. Finn is the research side, like Finn, because crippled, just sits in a room and studies all day, reading things. And Codringer, if they need to go out and get information from people, that's his side of the business, and then he manages the clients as well. But they are technically a detective agency, but if they're not on a job, they are just constantly gathering information all the time.
So I heard about this group in D&D called House of Madani. They kind of know what's going on. Something similar.
That is, that's Codringer and Finn. House of Madani.
Always gathering information. Like, hey, did you tell someone something? Yeah, they already know.
I was thinking more like Batman and Alfred.
I don't know who those people are. So
Alfred stays.
That's it for episode 6.
All right.
Yeah, let's go on to the next one, see if we can get it. So, episode 7. So, episode 7 and 8, there are no more lore points to dive into. We can just cover the summary of events and then see if there's anything we want to bring up. Okay, so in episode 7, Istred learns the history of Cirilla's bloodline. And this is different than we discussed in the past. So anytime we've mentioned this in the past, we have talked about how this is played out in the books. And now we have enough information about the Netflix series to see what they're doing and how it's different. So in our discussions of the prophecy and the reason for Cirilla's bloodline was that the elves had gotten the prophecy of the end of the world in frost and ice. And they had then created this bloodline to create someone powerful enough to be able to open a doorway to another sphere, and they could all go through and escape the end of the world. That was the plan, right?
Not to stop it, but to dodge it.
Yes. So, in the Netflix series, the prophecy around Lord Durin and her bloodline was that the elves were creating a powerful weapon. And in this episode, it is Codringer and Finn point out that that's a mistranslation of the original Elder. That they weren't creating a powerful weapon, they were creating a powerful warrior. And so now they understand that Cirilla's bloodline was created as a weapon against the humans by the elves.
So it's not even really a mistranslation. It's still the same thing. A powerful humans, a powerful weapon. Same.
All right, so we get that from Codringer and Finn. So that may have some big changes for how this all ends. Now that we're dealing with essentially a kind of different prophecy. All right, so Cirilla and Yennefer flee to the farmhouse where Geralt first found Cirilla to claim her as the child surprise during the Battle of Sodden. The three witches all make a deal with Baba Yaga, right? Yennefer to get her magic back, Fringilla to reclaim her leadership and position, and Francesca for a child. And so she gets pregnant, and now she has the elven baby. And now the elves, who had all agreed to fight for Nilfgaard, suddenly don't want anything to do with this war. Be like, we have children again. We're just gonna leave and go have kids. Like that's what we want to do now.
That's what we always wanted to do. We didn't have that option before.
Yeah. This brings up a lot of conflict with the humans in Sintra, particularly the Nilfgaardian commanders and leaders, because that was the deal. The elves got Sintra, and the elves helped Nilfgaard fight the North. And now the elves are breaking that deal because they got this baby, right? So Geralt rescues Jaskier from a prison and learns that Yennefer is in league with Baba Yaga, or I think he calls her the Deathless Mother.
Oh, and you see so much bromance from that one scene. Geralt rescuing Jaskier. Just like an entire season's worth of love and irritation all in one little scene. It's adorable. You see the extrovert and the introvert being each other's besties,
reunited.
each other all in one.
No.
That's how they do.
That's what they do. All right. And then Yennefer uses Cirilla to get to where she needs to go while teaching her magic, right? She's leading her to the Deathless Mother, but they encounter all these obstacles.
Wait, so the kid she was going to go find to kidnap, she's now teaching.
Yeah, but I mean, they're stuck on the side of the river, so she's like, you got to build this bridge for us, Cirilla, so we can get over there. Because that's where I'm going to trade you.
I care so much about you. You need to take good care of yourself. Also, let's go talk to those people with money that I can sell you to.
So Vilgefortz and Tissaia, they learn from Triss about Cirilla, and they're trying to decide what to do. And then Fringilla dislikes how Cahir and the other humans are treating and reacting to the elves, and so she kills off a bunch of the human commanders. And essentially spares Cahir on condition that he supports her in whatever she's trying to do. Right. And then Cirilla finally learns that she's being led to Baba Yaga, or I think Volieth Mere is the name they use the most. But yeah, so the Deathless Mother, Volieth Mere, Baba Yaga, all same person. All right, so Geralt arrives and confronts Yennefer. Figures out what she's doing. He doesn't kill her, but he's very upset. And then a newborn elven baby is slain in its crib, and Volieth Mere escapes her prison.
So when you say a newborn elven baby, this isn't the one that we're really excited about that had all the elves up in a tizzy.
Yeah, this is the one. This new elven baby is it. Yeah.
Oh, this is that elven baby? The elven baby just got murdered in its crib. Dang, season 3 must be insane.
That's gonna breed a war.
That's gonna breed. Well, no, the breeding died. Like, it was murdered. So you can't breed a dead.
That is episode 7, kind of building up to the big thing. So you got your 2 big things. The elven baby's dead. Well, you get your 3 big things, right? A multitude of Nilfgaardian commanders are killed off by Fringilla. Volieth Mere escapes, and the elven baby's dead.
Okay.
A lot of big things coming into the final episode.
In a 40-second wrap-up.
All right, so we go to Kaer Morhen. Volieth Mere has taken over Cirilla and is killing off witchers as they sleep.
Which is bad for witchers.
Now, I will point out, way early on we discussed, in the books, there are only 5 witchers who show up at Kaer Morhen. In the Netflix episode, there's a bunch of them who show up. And all the witchers she kills off, none of them, we have no name for any of these witchers. We have never met them. So it's kind of just convenient that they're there to be killed off. So Geralt rushes to find her. Francesca and Filavandrel. Filavandrel, as you'll remember way back when, knocks Geralt out and was going to kill him. Geralt convinces him not to, and he tells Filavandrel, "You've got to find a way to make peace with the humans, or they are going to wipe you out." Later on, we find a boy with the string of elven ears around his neck, saying that he fought against Filavandrel during the uprising. And we know that Filavandrel did not listen to
Shame.
Now here with Francesca, he has turned over leadership of the elves to her. Francesca and Filavandrel decide that it was the northern kingdoms that murdered their child. So
that's who they decide to go and attack.
That's who they decide to go and attack. So they go and they murder all the babies of the northern kingdom. Now, we don't know if it's all of them or just that one town or city, but they do kill them all. Geralt confronts Volieth Mere trapped in Ciri's body. Oh, no, he confronts Cirilla and then realizes that she's been taken over. Right, and then Cirilla goes to the medallion tree and reveals that there's a monolith, that it has grown around.
What's the medallion tree?
That's where they hang the necklaces of the witchers who have died.
Oh, okay.
So, Yennefer, so she unleashes the monolith and then lets out a bunch of monsters. The witchers are fighting it as Geralt is trying to get Cirilla out. And eventually, Yennefer is able to take Volieth Mere into her body to save Cirilla. And then Cirilla opens a portal to the world where Volieth Mere wants to go. So then Volieth Mere leaves Yennefer and goes to whatever world she came from. And we see her join the Wild Hunt. They assume it's where she came from, but it may just be where she wanted to go. Right.
Okay, so she might have used this place as just a hop-in frequency. Hey, get me over there and we're good.
But she joins the Wild Hunt.
Yeah, so the Wild Hunt comes for Cirilla, but she's able to teleport back to the continent before they reach her. Yennefer has her magic back. And then
Geralt has his girls.
Well, I don't know if Yennefer's his girl anymore. He's pretty...
to Geralt, she is.
He's pretty upset about that.
He's the one who made the wish, though. 100%. He's like, I am going to fight and die for this person. No matter how dumb she is, no matter where she is, I'm going to go fight for her. That's what he does. That's his girl.
He'll go hunt dragons.
She could be like, I don't know that guy. He's so irritating. He's like, I'm going to go fight for her.
Tissaia and Vilgefortz convene a meeting of the Brotherhood in combination with the kings and queens of the Northern Kingdom. And they fill everyone in about Cirilla, and they decide that she's more trouble alive than dead, and they put a bounty on her. And we finally meet Emir, Emperor of Nilfgaard, and Cirilla's father.
Cirilla's father. Dr. Porcupine himself.
All right. So, for our listeners, this is our question for you to either comment or write in, and if we get some, we'll read them on the air next time. What do you think of the Volieth Mere storyline introduced to The Witcher, right? Diehard fans of the books are against it because it's different from the books. But the games make up a lot of new storylines that a lot of the fans love. So, as someone who has maybe consumed all three or just, some of them, what do you think of the introduction of this storyline? Because... there's a lot, like I said, there are a few diehard fans of the books who are just mad that Netflix has changed things, but the video games change things all the time because they have to give you choices, and all of those choices lead to things that don't happen in the books.
All right, this is an excellent question.
True.
I'm going to answer this question in the treasure room.
All right, yes, so you get our answers, write yours in, you'll get ours in the treasure room.